If you could remove one event from your life, what would it be? Being robbed by someone I considered a friend. Ruined my trust in people. Finding and reading the spiral-bound notebook filled with my mom's ramblings during one of her bad bipolar episodes, wherein she described being raped at the age of 20. I was 8 when I read it. Agreeing to a deal with my parents. It led to me going to their choice of my college instead of mine. And it led to me having a ton of debt. And it led to me working dead-end jobs instead of becoming a teacher. I witnessed a nasty murder. I was in my Jeep with the top down and watched 2 guys argue on the sidewalk. I didn't want to get involved, so I just sat there. One guy pulled out a homemade knife, shank, and plunged it into the other guy's eye. The sound was horrific. I wish I had beeped my horn or something and tried to get them to move along. The guy was later caught and convicted of murder, but I'll never forget the crunching sound when that knife went into his skull. Nightmares for life. Also, my motorcycle accident where I nearly lost my leg 35 years ago. That sucked. It's not something I often talk about because I still experience shame. I lost my eyesight in my right eye because I was a teenager who thought I knew better and did not wear a paintball mask. It was such a stupid mistake and caused me an endless amount of trauma. However, I am grateful that it taught me in hardest way that impairments are not always visual. Pun. At this point in my life, I have lived longer without vision in that eye than I did with. Oftentimes, it is common for me to be completely unaware that anything is abnormal about myself until I am made to realize that something or someone is trying to grab my attention from the right side, and then it becomes a stark reminder of that stupid fateful day. Usually I shrug it off. But sometimes it still stings. So, my answer to this question is that I would have never asked my mom to buy me a paintball gun. Ultimately, I think out of all the events that shaped my being, this one has the least likelihood of having drastic butterfly effect type consequences. Breaking my ankle when I was 8. I was trying to climb my grandma's rose apple tree and shattered my ankle. I'm in my 20s and have had 7 operations on it and ended up fucking my other leg while trying to avoid injury on my shitty ankle, all because I wanted a fruit and grandma told me to wait until morning. My life would have been much easier and less painful if I listened to my gran, and now I just wish she was still here telling me that I need to clean my ears and listen more, because whenever I didn't listen to her I ended in stupid situations. Being abused by my dad. It has really messed me up. I can't stand the nightmares. I hate that his abuse makes me scared of every man I meet. I hated having to tell my mom what happened and seeing her heart break. I hate that I loved him. He could have recovered from the drinking and gambling and I would have forgiven him. I could even forgive the spankings and the anger, but you can't be forgiven after touching your own daughter like that. There is no going back. My brother's suicide. I believe my life would be completely different had this not had happened. Being bitten by a gaboon viper on the right ankle. Most extreme pain I've ever been in. I puked and screamed on the way to the hospital. My dad dropping dead in front of me when I was a teen. Last year, when I went in for surgery to fix a broken leg and something went wrong. I woke up 18 days later with a TBI. When I woke up I couldn't see, move, or speak. I can sort of walk now. I can't really see faces. Or read well. And I slur my words when I speak, but I'm largely functional for caring for myself. Edit. I've started an AMA. I'm slow, but I'll try to answer all questions there. My mom's suffering before she passed. Hard to choose. Some of the worst brought some of the best. I would say my marriage, but it brought me my best friends that helped me after it ended. Also, she got me to volunteer with her to help rehabilitate baby songbirds at the university. Something I never would have thought of doing on my own. I wouldn't give that up even though my life sucks post-divorce. Crossing a road in Melbourne in 1999. Got hit by car and given permanent brain damage. And from that moment my life changed course forever. If it hadn't happened, I would have had a much different, much less painful life. I was working part-time as a gardener. Studying IT. Preparing to apply for uni to do a course on journalism which I had a good chance of getting into. Was also doing volunteer work with street people. And paneling and presenting a couple of radio shows on a minor AM radio station. And had just done over a year of physical rehabilitation for a bad back. Lots of gym and fitness work. Physio and I was about the fittest I've ever been. Then I crossed the road and everything changed forever. My parents' meeting. The guy's always been a dick. She deserves so much better. Either quitting college or going in the first place. My wife passing away. Let's just remove that part and have her sitting next to me right now talking about the ham she's going to make for Thanksgiving. The time I had ear surgery and the anesthesia fucked with my brain and now I can't fucking function as a person. Losing my mom. Being beaten by my dad for going to a friend's wedding. I had to go because I was the maid of honor. And I already told my parents. Got home. Was accused of not telling them about it. Coming home late. 7 to 8 p.m. And not attending my uncle's get-together party. I knew what was gonna happen next. So I ran into my room and locked the door. Banging on the door. With me barring the door with my body. Then my dad broke in with a crowbar to beat me. Ran away after that for a while. My great-grandpa died after a long battle with dementia well into his 80s or even 90s. I was a kid at the time. I think I was maybe 11. We called him Grandpa cause our relationship Grandpa was just Papa. So Grandpa and I were close. Same with my twin sister too. He loved seeing us. Our dad would bring us over a lot. He lived with my grandma. My dad's mom. Well, we all know the end is coming. Me and my sister to a lesser degree because of our ages, but of course we hear all the adults saying this will be his last Christmas and he doesn't have much time left. The event I would erase as an event I'll never forgive my father for. He was an abusive man to begin with, but this is what makes me hope he rots in fuck'em hell. My grandpa had a day where he actually knew what was happening. The last few weeks he didn't know what was going on. Who he was. Who any of his family was. But he knew this day. And he asked for me and my sister. He asked for the girls. My grandma called my dad. Told him Grandpa was more mentally there than he had been in weeks. Told him he was asking to see the girls. My dad never told us. He took our stepsister instead. He died a couple days later and we didn't find out until he was already gone that he was asking for us. It breaks my heart. I remember eagerly showing him everything I learned in gymnastics and how excited he always was for me. I remember feeling so happy when he asked me to help him with something because I felt like he trusted me. Even dumb things like getting him a piece of pie after dinner or refilling his drink was so fun for me. I'll never forgive my dad. But not for me. My grandpa didn't deserve that. In his last lucid days he asked for us and he didn't get that. It makes me cry knowing he died and didn't get everything he asked for. Especially when it came to seeing his family that he was close to. My grandma was so mad and upset with my dad for a long time, but she eventually, at least outwardly, let it go. But I won't do that because he doesn't deserve it. So yeah, I would remove that whole event from my life and my grandpa's if I could. If I could change it I would have came and saw him some other way. But at least he still knew he was loved. He was never alone and that's what matters. Edit. I didn't expect this to get much, but I want to say thank you to the people who validated me and my feelings, and thank you to all those who cared. When someone responded saying this made them cry, it made me take a long and hard look at this story again because I had become desensitized to my father's abuse. When this happened as a kid it wasn't shocking at all. It was upsetting, but it wasn't surprising in the least. To those of you who think I'm wrong for having no relationship with him, I hope you learn. I hope you don't have to experience this, but that you realize that life is different for all of us. This story wasn't the only time my dad was abusive and not the only way. Anyone curious can see my post history on this because I have nothing to hide and I'm a firm believer in family being held accountable and never enduring abuse. Don't endure it because they're your family. Don't ignore it because they love you. Or they raised you. I know the people who think I'm wrong for this just need to learn. And I really hope you are open to it. And never tell someone who experienced abuse they have to forgive them. Also maybe learn to read a room and see that the majority of people think differently. And although the majority of people thinking differently doesn't make you wrong, it should make you think. Thank you all for the cathartic release. I'd appreciate no one sharing this outside of Reddit so I don't end up having to deal with family issues again, but everything I've said is honest and true, so why should I really care? I'm really fine now for the most part. I can't sit here and say it doesn't hurt that my dad was always like this, or that even when I tried to be a good kid he didn't like me. But I can say I know it wasn't my fault and I know I'm happier without him in my life, so please respect that. Thank you all. Thank you especially to those who cried from this and told me. It genuinely gave me chills seeing people say that because I was used to this from my dad. Seeing others affected by it made me feel so much better in knowing I wasn't alone in how I felt and that my feelings were valid. Thank you and sorry for any issues with my typing. I'm on mobile. Genuinely hoping the best for all of you even if you were rude to me. As a young man in Eastern Europe, before the Cold War ended, I was sentenced to the farm pit for dealing drugs. It was basically a deep, concrete pit at a hog farm. The criminal stands inside for a few hours. And then the pigs' dung is shoveled in with you. I thankfully have a much better life today. But I'll never forget the sickening nausea of the pit. My sister's death from brain cancer. She was 21. It was a month before my 18th birthday. Miss her every day. Wasn't ready for college after that. Tried to go anyway. Failed. Now I'm in my 30s. No career. Severe depression. I feel constant guilt that she didn't get to be here but I am. And shame that I'm wasting it. If I could remove a second it would be dating an emotionally abusive man for 9 years right after leaving college. And letting him gaslight and isolate me. But I'm back in college now. At 32. And I'm really trying. I'm taking it slow. And the financial issues are a constant stressor as well as dealing with the healthcare system. But still. I'm going to make it. For Christine less than 3, edit. Thank you so much for all the comments of encouragement and support. It means a lot. I'm just gonna say it, this thread is so sad. I thought for sure it would be more embarrassing but funny stuff, but it's actually just a lot of really sad events. My sexual abuse. The bombing of the DAC Hall in Sadr City on June 24, 2008. Fuck you Colonel Dipshit who denied our request for the bomb dog and change of venue after the 6th straight day of making the same trip at the same time. Rip Captain Farley. CW3 Hammett. The other 2 soldiers. The interpreter. And the 6 Jundi who lost their lives that day. I came in here ready to make a my birth joke. But damn I hope y'all are doing okay these days. I wish my easily manipulated teenage brain wasn't talked into going to some out-of-state private school for my degree. I have since transferred to a state school and commute. It's going to take me a little longer to graduate and I'm saving a shit ton, but because of that initial decision I'm over $75. In the hole and still racking it up. My mother telling investigators that despite there being an eyewitness, that I lied about being sexually assaulted by a grown man when I was a child. They chose to believe her instead of a traumatized broken kid. Ruined my life.